I'm Kiera.
I'm Tanner.
I'm Christine.
And our experiment that we decided to do was an experiment based on bribery and participation. So our hypothesis for the experiment was we thought that bribery would influence survey participation, but we didn't know to what extent this would influence people's want to take or desire to take a survey. And this sort of sparked our intrigue to do this exact experiment and read our hypothesis. I guess we could just like take a look at it for a second. So, anybody wants to read it? Zach?
I can't see it.
You can't see it?
If bribed with candy or a raffle prize, then students will be more likely to complete a survey because of the reward from their participation.
Okay, cool. Next slide. All right, so some of the terms that we should probably be familiar with is the control group. The first control group that we did was Tanner's. Well, it was the only control group. Tanner did the control group. So we just went to the dining hall and asked a group of students at random to take a survey without giving them any reward or offering them any reward. So the next term is between subjects. So our experiment is between subjects design because we sort of got different amounts of people in different groups and did different treatments on them. So we didn't have like one group and do repeated measures. We did different levels on different random groups, if that makes sense.
Alright, I'll take it from here. Random assignment. This one is relevant to our experiment because we just randomly asked anyone who walked by. We didn't like pick people for a certain reason. We didn't like ask like only the boys who walked through or only people of a certain form. It was just anyone who walked by. Just randomly asked people as we went. Statistically significant. This term pretty much means like the difference the difference between like what probably happened from one treatment to like what happened in control, and if there's a big enough gap between the percentages, you can infer that there was an implication based on the treatment that you gave, and we had a pretty big gap, roughly 40% participation with our rewards versus a 90% participation with candy. So we definitely thought our data was statistically significant, and we'll talk about our results a little more later. And levels, there were 3 levels in our experiment. We had the control group, and then we had 2 treatments. So each level had like different scenarios. The control were just asked to take the survey. The other level was given candy, and the third level was entered into a raffle. So as far as our results go, I think the first one to look at obviously is the nothing offered. That was the control group. I asked about 41 different students to take my survey. At first when I started asking them, like I was really worried no one was going to say no, because like the first like 10 people all were like sure, and I was like this data's going to be kind of weird, like why would anyone say no to like a 5-second survey? It was kind of easy. But then people started saying no. They came up with different excuses like, oh sorry we're studying, or some people said no thank you. Some people didn't say anything, like that was just like really weird. Just walked past me. But I was actually really shocked. I thought more people would take it. Like, it was literally just like we circled a couple things, but I only got 43% participation.
And then moving on to when candy was offered, I did my experiment during D-block lunch. And so I asked 51 students, and 45 of those students answered, so that's 88.42%. And then of those 45 students who actually answered, 36 of them took candy. So 80% of the students who took the survey actually took candy afterwards, which just shows how the candy was a positive motivator in kids taking this survey. And then some observations we had, or I had, was that kids immediately came over. Some of them, when I said I'm offering candy, it's free. some just really wanted the candy, so they came right over to take the survey. And then some kids also would take a little too long to take the survey, so eventually we're just telling them, like, just don't think about it too much and just finish the survey, because all we really care about is if you take it. It's kind of a source of error for us, but we didn't want kids like spending 10 minutes on this survey that was only 5 questions.
Yeah, so we'll talk more on errors later in the presentation, but we all did our experiments at different points in time. So I did mine during F block lunch, and so you might assume that, well, you can infer that there are less people there. So I asked 17 people, which is the lowest amount out of the experiments that we've asked. And out of the 17, 12 actually took the survey. So that came out to about a 70.6% participation rate.
Oh yeah, I just want to make one more comment too about mine, how the people were more comfortable saying no to the survey if they were with other people. Like, not many people on, like, just walking through by themselves, if I asked them, most of them said yes. But if they were with, like, a friend, 2, 3 friends, like, then they had a lot more confidence to say, like, no, thank you.
And then moving on to our errors, or what we could have done better or differently. Our location originally, we were going to test in the sophomore junior section, and all but one of our tests was done there, and there wasn't really big discrepancy between the number of students that were asked who were in when the test wasn't done there. That was actually
Yeah, like I sat at like the first table in the freshman section, and so who knows if maybe like the more people that I asked were freshmen, and maybe freshmen have a different tendency to say yes or no to the survey than maybe juniors, sophomores. So that could have swayed the results, but I don't know, I think it did.
ideally we just want to keep it in the same location. And then timing, as Kiara said, she was during F block. I did mine during D block, and Tanner did his during conference. So F block just had less number of students who have that lunch block, so it was just harder to ask a large group of students. We also had a script that we would talk to each student about. Just, hi, my name is blank, we're doing this survey for our statistics class. And then in my case, it would be you get a free piece of candy if you take it. And depending on the situation, we would veer off from the script at times, which may or may not have had a big influence on whether or not people would take the survey.
So in an ideal world, we would have asked a lot more people, because that would obviously increase statistical significance and increase the validity of our results in our experiment. Another thing, we would have tried to have one person ask participants, I guess, instead of having 3 of us individually ask, because we might, like Christine said, veer off of the script, or some people might be more welcoming to.
Yeah, like maybe it wasn't the fact that I didn't have any candy, maybe people just say no to me more than they do to Christine and Kiara.
Yeah.
That's quite possible.
And so to conclude, when we did research, we found something called intrinsic motivation, which is when you don't receive reward for an action and it's just self-motivation. So in this case, this would be Tanner's group of the control group. These students just took the survey just to take the survey.
It's not every lunch block you have to take a survey, and sometimes it's kind of fun, like, to read the question.
And they didn't get any reward from taking it, they just took it just to take it. And then extrinsic motivation is action based on an external stimuli, such as a reward. So in my group, it was me giving them candy, and they wanted to take the survey because of the candy. And then Kiara's group, they wanted to take it because they were going to be entered into a raffle. So extrinsic motivation decreases intrinsic motivation. You can think about this as, if I were to give you candy and ask you to do something, the next time I asked you to do something, you'd want candy again. So it would decrease your motivation to just do something without getting a reward for it.
And to conclude, I just want to relate this to the real world. So we did find that there is a causal relationship between bribery and survey participation, and it kind of, our results proved exactly how much it influences survey participation. I know personally in the real world, there's actually sites that you can go on and register, and you can even take surveys and they pay you money to take those surveys. So like, I think what our results prove is that you might be more motivated to take those surveys if you get a reward. And the results definitely show that.
Yeah, I think that would show too that also like people in the workforce are going to do better work, be better workers if they're paid sufficiently. Like if people have incentives, then they're gonna do a good job.
And that's when we can relate to just having extrinsic motivation have a positive effect as well as workers will be more inclined to work harder, and students, if they're given rewards, will be more likely to work harder and do well.
Thank you.
Yeah.